Are you looking for a modern, relatively inexpensive gravel bike that you can ride in races and longer events? Well, I am too. In this video, I'll tell you about the Cervelo Aspero that you see here in front of me, and what I and a couple of my fellow cyclists who tested this bike in just those kinds of races and events liked about it and didn't like about it. Hi, I'm Steve from In the Know Cycling, the independent, ad-free, sponsor-free, and subscription-free YouTube channel and website. Before we get rolling, let me tell you a little bit about this bike. This is the $4,000 Aspero model with a Shimano GRX 12-speed mechanical group set on it. And the chain rings in front, it's a 48-31, and in the back it's an 11-36, so you can get a 31-36 ratio going up those tall climbs. The wheels are the Fulcrum Rapid Red 3. They have a 24mm internal width, a 29mm external, and a 24mm rim depth. On those rims and wheels, you have the WTB Vulpine tires. It's a 40mm small knob tire. It's really ideal for riding mixed surfaces, pavement, class 1 and class 2 dirt and gravel, loose gravel kind of surfaces. The cockpit has aero bars up front with flared bars. They are 40mm wide at the top, flare out to about 46 here in the drops, and 50mm if you're holding all the way at the end. It has integrated cabling, although easily accessible cabling. And on the back it has a Prologo seat. I've replaced it with this one because the Prologo that comes with it is 43mm wide, which is a little bit too narrow for me. It also has this built-in bento box, a nice little addition that you can put some of the absolute necessities for your ride. Also important to note, this is a white bike. If you get up close, it's kind of a salt and pepper. There's lots of cool little dark specks in there that really bring out a nice finish. Cervelo also makes this bike with electronic group sets, the SRAM Access ride that sells for about $5,500 on this bike, with a pair of reserve 40-45 or 40-44 wheels, and also the SRAM Apex 1X Access group set for about $4,300. They also make other mechanical versions that are lower priced than this one, but that have a lesser spec both in the wheel set and in other cockpit components. So that's an overview. Let's get on and tell you what we liked and didn't like about this bike after our testing. So I'm here with my friend Connor. How you doing, Connor?
Doing well, doing well. We've got a beautiful day this fall. It's like 70 degrees in mid-October in the Green Mountains, and you don't always get this, so pretty nice.
I'm loving it, yeah. Well, thanks for inviting us up to your neck of the woods. A month from now, we'll probably all be skiing up here, so nice to enjoy this. We've had 6 months or so on this Cervelo Aspero that you see in front of us. I had it for the first couple months, and I rode probably 15 times on a combination of paved class 1, 2, and 3, and did an event up in Vermont called the VT Monster, which was about 50 miles long and 6,000 feet of vertical, and had class 1 through class 4 riding. A real tough ride up at Stratton Mountain and around that area. Passed it to Nate, who rode it for about a week, and jumped right into a race called the Guilford Gravel Grinder. You were in that one too, right?
I did that as well. I saw him there. I think I did the bike handoff at the end of the race.
You saw him in your rear view mirror, as I understand, right? And he raced it. The Guilford Gravel Grinder is sort of a classical, it's mostly dirt, right?
Yep.
And,
Basically all dirt. Smooth dirt, ton of climbing. So it's like probably like 40 miles, but like 5,000 feet of climbing, something like that.
Some serious steeps there. I remember doing that a couple years ago. And now you started riding it after the Guilford Gravel Grinder.
That's right. Yeah, and so I got it up here, and I've probably got, 30 rides, give or take, on it. Several hundred miles, a mix of pavement, maintained dirt roads, and then, off-road, class 4, so unmaintained dirt roads like Jeep roads, and will have chunky rocks and that type of stuff. So good mix of terrain.
And you raced it as well, I understand.
That's right, yeah. So I did one gravel race ride event here, Vermont Rare Gravel, down in Peru, Vermont, which is about, what was it, 48 miles, 5,100 feet of climbing, and it was predominantly dirt with a good amount of class 4 unmaintained roads thrown in. Yeah.
Nice. Let's talk about how we set up the bike. You've had it last, and this is how you set it up for many of your rides in the last couple months, right?
That's right. Yep.
What's the setup you have here? How is it different than the stock version, for example?
Yeah, so I mean, other than, just dialing in the fit, I dropped the stem down a little bit, things like that, 4.5 stuff. Mm-hmm. And then swapped out the wheels. This here is some Bontrager, that's carbon wheel with Pirelli Cinturato Gravel M tires. I think the sidewall measurement is 700 by 44 or 45, and the actual measurement is about 48. Mm-hmm. And as you can see, it actually it clears the frame pretty well. I think that's about maxed out. I don't think you probably want to go bigger than a 48.
And for me, I rode it stock for a little while, likewise with the same Fulcrum wheels and WTB Vulpine tires. I think they're a 40 millimeter wide tire. It's a mixed gravel and paved road tire, I think ideal in that space. But for most of my riding, I switched out to the Roval Terra CLX II wheels, which we've reviewed and I think is one of the best all-road wheels. You can actually see a link to that review up above me. And I also put on some Schwalbe G1 RS tires, which are 42 wide, but very not much knob at all in the center and just on the edge. So that's how we had it set up, and Nate rode it just stock with the Fulcrum wheels in that ride that he did. So Connor, you got the most recent time on this bike. How would you describe what it's like to ride this bike?
Yeah, so it's I found the handling fine. I like the way it handled. I would say it was the geometry similar to what I was familiar with for gravel riding. So I think that made it easier. I think the biggest thing that jumped out to me was the stiffness of the bike.
Yeah, me too.
It's a very, I think it's a very stiff bike, and so both in the fork, you can see, it's got a very beefy fork. You're going over rough stuff, you don't really notice it flexing. And similar, the rear end, there's not really any flex built into the seat post or the rear triangle. Both felt very stiff, right? Yeah. And so on rough stuff, it's a little bit less forgiving.
Yeah, and I would add that it felt very responsive, perhaps because it was stiff.
Yep.
And it also felt, at least going uphill, it felt light because it reacted very quickly when you put the power down. I don't know if it's any lighter. I'll weigh it when I get back to the garage.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'll put that info up here on the screen. And yeah, we all noted that it felt stretched out. Nate noted that, you as well, and,
yep.
and I. But then again, I think this bike is intended for racing, so that you're, you want to be out there and get your body out of the wind. So Connor, you've been on this bike most recently. What do you like about riding it?
So one thing, the Groupset works great. It's the new Shimano 12-speed GRX. It's a 2x setup. Shifting's phenomenal, mechanical drivetrain, but it works great. And the brakes also great, fantastic. And in my experience, Shimano tends to be real nice, reliable stuff. What else I like about it? I actually like the stock seat. That's kind of rare. A lot of times, stock seat, I love it. Thought the seat was really nice. I think it's a nice looking bike. Nice color, just nice overall aesthetic. Another thing I liked about it is I like the handling. It's got, it's at a 72 degree head tube angle, 73 degree seat tube angle. I think that's a pretty nice setup for gravel handling, and I thought it handled comfortably. And just overall, just a good fun gravel bike to ride.
Yeah, I'd concur on some of those things from my own experience. You know, white is not the color I've normally ridden, but you haven't cleaned this bike for a while, and you can see it still looks pretty good. It looks like it's been ridden, yet it still stands out. Yeah, I love the Groupset. I'm kind of a Shimano fan, and I hadn't ridden a mechanical for a while, but this one didn't miss a beat, didn't miss a shift. Yep. It was very confident braking. And yeah, the handling was pretty good as well. I really enjoyed that. What didn't we like about this bike?
So I think the thing I didn't like about it the most is it was too stiff for my liking. I think,
Amen.
I think to go, I think it's stiff to go fast. I think it's probably the intent. But I also think for gravel, I think you can go fast. Compliance also helps you go fast.
Right.
And I found it, really bone jarring, and and I think it makes the handling more difficult when you're going over really rough terrain, and it's just everything is being fed back to you.
Yeah. I had a similar experience, especially going down some of the Class 4 gravel at the VT Monster ride that I did. There was just no room for error, and I had wider tires on, 42s. I had them, inflated low, and it just. Even with good wheels and tires, the frame was just too stiff for me. And let's talk about the stock wheels for a second. They're alloy wheels. They come from Fulcrum. The tires, WTBs, but probably not the best. What was your experience with that?
No, I rode them once or twice just because I wanted to see what they're like. And then after I rode them, I wanted to swap them out immediately to something else so that the wheels wouldn't taint my experience with the bike.
Agreed. Yeah, it's it's sort of what you get for a $4,000 bike. You can get the $5,500 version of this bike, which comes with Reserve 4044 carbon wheels, which is a good wheel set. Again, we've reviewed those, and you can see a description in the above me, and more information in the description box below. But for this price point, there are even better alloy wheels, I might say. We've reviewed some of those, and so that was a disappointment, the wheels for this bike.
Yeah. Tires as well. I really didn't like the WTB tires. They were narrower than spec, and just didn't seem to really do anything all that well, in my opinion.
A couple other things, minor things, but worth noting. The bento box up here. Good idea, but it's really tiny, and the base of it is all plastic, so you hear everything rattling around.
Yeah.
I'd put something else there and use the bolts that they have up there. Of course, it's not always black and white. You either like it or you don't. There's always some things that worth debating about. Let's start off with 2x versus 1x. You're a 1x guy. I'm a 2x guy. What didn't you like about this being, or what were you uncertain about this being a 2x?
Yeah, I mean, probably one of the biggest things is you kind of got to get your 2x muscle memory back. Getting used to shit because it's just different, right? I like, especially for New England gravel, where you have a lot of punchy ups and downs, chunky terrain, where you need to make a lot of quick adjustments. I find that it's just having the one derailleur to shift is really a performance advantage in those kind of situations.
Yeah. So you're a northern New England guy. I'm a southern New England gravel guy, which includes typically a lot of paved road to get to the dirt road.
Yep.
And the off-trail stuff. And that's where a 2x, I think, comes in handy.
Yep.
That's perhaps the benefit of that. But again, this bike is sold in a 1x with access group sets at a higher price or lower price. But at this price point, the $4,000 version of this bike, it's only in a 2x mechanical. Now, we also had some different views on the handlebars, right? These bars are 40 millimeters at the top, at the hoods, 50 down all the way at the bottom, and in the drops about 46. How did you feel about the bars in your time with them?
Yeah, so I didn't love them. They look cool, but I didn't love them because with the narrower at the hoods, which is where you spend most of your time, it gives you a little less control, particularly over the rough and technical terrain.
Okay. And for me, I'm typically on 40 millimeter wide bars or 42s. on some, I think on my gravel bike, 38 on my road bike, so it felt right at home for me. But that's something you can always change. We also had some different thoughts about the brakes. We both talked about how we liked it. Nate, who shared his notes with me, didn't like the brakes. He thought they were either on or off. You know, it didn't have as much modulation as he's used to. He rides SRAM group sets more often, so that may have been the difference there. How future-proof is this bike? Things are changing a lot in the gravel scene, even this year, 2024. Certainly it'll change again in 25 and 26. But what do you think about how long this spec will hold up in the way that gravel is evolving and the way that you and I are riding gravel?
Yeah, so I think one real positive in the future-proof category is that it has the UDH, Universal Derailleur Hanger, which the newer SRAM drivetrains, the transmission 13-speed, a lot of the new, pretty cool new drivetrain technology requires that UDH into what's to come in the future, and so that's a nice thing to have.
And then the question is, how wide can you go? This Cervelo says 45 millimeter tire width is best. That gives you 6 millimeters around all sides. You've got 48s on here, and you found that not to be an issue. And I think if you're racing most dirt and gravel rides, that may be enough, but maybe not in 25 or in 2026 when we'll all be on mountain bike tires, right? 2.1s and 2.2s.
That's right. It seems like a lot of the pros at some of the big gravel events are starting to run pretty wide tires. So they're using the mountain bike race tires in the 2.1, 2.2 category, which would be too big for this frame.
You're right. Okay, so let's bottom line it. Connor, is this a bike that you would want to buy?
For me, no. And the reason is basically the harshness that we talked about. It's for the type of riding I do around here in Vermont. I'd want something with a little bit more compliance. And then, and also just the parts spec and the build. There's too many things that I would want to change personally that, it wouldn't make sense for me to buy this one.
Yeah, and I probably wouldn't either, perhaps for the same, some of the same reasons as you. While you're all business up front, I'm a party in the back kind of gravel rider, and I like to have a relaxed, more comfortable ride, and this is just too stiff for me. What kind of rider do you think would really enjoy this bike?
Yeah, so I think somebody that likes to go fast, they want to do gravel races. It's it's going to respond when you stomp on the pedals, and as we talked about, the 2x setup has got its advantages, and it's got a very solid drivetrain. Yeah,
it's almost an all-road bike. You could ride this. I could easily see riding this bike on paved roads, just switch out the tires or switch out the tires and the wheels. And if you're riding, doing a lot of riding where it's mostly dirt roads and you want to go fast, this will do it. It's not an adventure bike, it's a race bike. And if you're doing serious racing and you're doing it on the kind of Class 1, Class 2 surfaces, perhaps like the Guilford Gravel Grinder, more like that kind of ride, than the VT Monster with all the Class 4 that I rode, or the one that you rode more recently with a lot of technical stuff. It's probably not as good for that kind of ride.
Yeah.
Well, Connor, thanks so much for spending some time with me on this and reviewing the bike. If you found this review helpful, feel free to hit the subscribe and like button and use the links in the description box below to help support the channel. Thanks so much. Check out the other reviews that we have alongside me, and we'll see you again in the next video.